Hello, everyone. Our pre-ISC 2023. I'm Aviad Cohen, joined with Mike Blackman. How are you?
I'm great, Aviad. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
So we're a few weeks ahead of ISC 2023. Feels a little bit weird because we just recapped the one in May, and we're looking at another one. Uh, Knowing you, you have a lot of surprises stacked up.
Always, as we try to make sure that IAC is bringing new things to everybody every year, and that's always a challenge. But we enjoy it, keeps the team motivated, and I think it's good for our attendees, not just to see the same thing every time. I think I've told you before. One of the things I always look at the show. I look at it like any sort of magazine. There's the advertising and then the editorial. It's up to our exhibitors to be the advertising and show new things. But we, as the organizer, are responsible for the editorial content of the show. And that needs to be interesting. That needs to be inspiring. And that's what we try to produce.
If I could recap for what we've seen in this year, there is certainly a lot to look forward to. Um, Plus the things that we could not right now disclose, but
Yeah.
I'm betting we're going to see more of that. So, Mike, the numbers game, uh, we can see the number of exhibitors going up this year. I think by it's a
We're
double
over.
digit. It's a double digit in percentage. But could we see
Absolutely.
those number go up? Could those number go up last minute even more?
Yeah, it will go up. It's not going to go up dramatically. What we see in the last month is a lot of the smaller companies who are coming in. We're at the moment we're over 900 exhibitors, and this is it's not where we were in 2019, but it's certainly going in that direction for the future. There will be more. How many, I don't know at the moment, but there are a number of companies we're still talking to who are looking for last minute spaces. Um, we have a very interesting discovery zone where we bring a lot of new to market and smaller companies into the show, and a lot of those tend to be last minute. Um, we this year we have 8 dedicated technology zones to the show. We have audio in Hall 7. We have digital signage in Hall 6. We have lighting and staging in Hall 7. We have residential smart building in Hall 2. We have unified communications in Hall 2 and educational technology in Hall 2. Then a couple of new things. We have content production and distribution. That's new to ISE. It's what you do. We've seen that it ranges from what TV studios and how they're creating shows. How look at the new films. Look at the Mandalorian. Look at this new series 1899. How they're using AV technology now instead of huge studios. They're using digital screens to actually create their scenery and. So that's going from films all the way down to podcasters. Um, and then, as well as that, we have Hall 8, which is new to the show. And we will have audio demo rooms. One of the challenges we've had for a long time is that giving a possibility for audio companies to be able to provide real demonstrations in large scale rooms. So Hall 8 has been broken up into, at the moment, we have about 8 different rooms where a lot of the audio companies are actually set up demos and actually presenting live audio demonstrations to show what they can do in there as well. So 2 new things already in there. I think will be really exciting new things to see. Great for the live event industry, great for the content creation and production industry. You're going to see people coming not only in creating those facilities, but people who are using them from the technical side right to the creative side to understand what can I do with AV equipment. So a lot of new inspiring things happening at ISE.
That's that is something to look forward to. So I'm gonna write down Hall 8. I know this, acoustics wise, it's a huge challenge to give someone that listening experience or that audio or
Absolutely.
recording, whatnot. usually you will hear exhibitors, this is not the optimized environment. We've optimized this as possible. You do understand
Yeah.
this is an exhibition ground. It can only go so far. So it would be interesting to see what Hall 8 has to offer.
Well,
Uh,
not only that, one of the biggest challenges on this is always what uh, for them to do demonstrations like this without disturbing their neighbors. You can't do that on the show floor. So, we create an environment where we've got a certain amount of soundproofing, but with all those companies working together to do the demos at different times, not to get the sound bleed and disturb each other, to actually create an environment where they actually do proper demonstrations. So this is a first for ISE. We've had audio demo rooms on a smaller scale, but now we've got it in a real opportunity for those companies to demonstrate, and I think that will grow in the future as well. Um, we hope to have some outdoor demos as well for some of those companies too. So some new things which are happening.
that is wonderful news for the visitors. Speaking of, last time we spoke about the expectation about how many visitors were going to come through this 2022 because of the pandemic, travel restrictions, etc. I do recall you said the numbers met your expectations. Do
Yeah, so
you
we had.
suppose we're going to get a larger number of visitors this year?
I hope so. I mean, we had 43,000 people this year. Now, if we reflect back on the 2020 show where we had just about 53,000 attendees, you can see the delta that we had there. Obviously, for the 2022 show, we still saw effects of the pandemic, travel restrictions, or travel cost. Being some of the things that slowed down or restricted the amount of visitors we had. We still see issues with travel costs, some restrictions in places, challenges to travel. But despite that, if we look at historic patterns of where our attendance was at the moment, we are on a par of where we were in December 2019. Now, this is before the pandemic was announced, or real news of that was coming about. So this puts us on a trajectory, certainly to achieve the 2020 numbers or better. Obviously, we won't know until the day. But if we look at our historic numbers and our patterns and how registrations are running, we're very confident.
That's great news. Speaking still about the global economy situation that's going on, it poses a lot of challenges. Knowing you, you usually don't look at these as threats, but rather as challenges. So, which of these challenges are relevant to our industry, and what opportunities do they create?
I mean, certainly, I think the biggest opportunity it's creating is that manufacturers. I mean, the issues that we're seeing from many manufacturers is they're selling, but they can't deliver. There are waiting lists for many companies because they can't get the parts. So it means that integrators have to look for alternatives now. And whether those alternatives comes from different manufacturers, unfortunately, many are all in the same position, so not so many alternatives. But they get other opportunities to say, how do I solve this for the customer? So coming to the show gives them the opportunity to see what else is there. How else can they go back to the customers with different ideas to solve the problems they have? We think also the fact that manufacturers are actually having to push even more so to build their relationships with their partners to keep them on board and stop them wandering off elsewhere. So this is where real shows come into their really being what they are, networking, building relationships, or enhancing those relationships with existing customers, but also bringing attention to new customers as well. So these are the advantages I think that we have as an event.
Um, that would be interesting. It's an interesting prospect, which brings me to my next question. Do you expect to see new crowds coming into ISC 2023, and what would be their incentives? You spoke earlier about new listening booths in an entire new hall, content creation and distribution. I'm guessing there will be other surprises, but when you see registrations, you usually look at when you pause them, and you have the regular crowd that we know, but who is this new crowd that we may be?
So we can see two things in the registration patterns. One is the type of people who are coming, and the second is the geography as well. So if we look at the geography, obviously the strongest markets for AV in Europe are UK, Germany, and France. And there are traditional strong markets. We always had a strong attendance from the Benelux area because that's where we were. We will see that we lose quite a few people who could travel by car. The more junior people in companies who just aren't being given the permission to fly. Certainly, we're seeing the senior people still coming. We saw that this year, that we didn't get the junior people, but we saw the senior management and most of the companies actually still attending. So geographically, we will see less people for Benelux, but on the converse to that, we're seeing growth in Southern Europe. So we're seeing more people from Italy, France, obviously Spain and Portugal and those areas. So the other thing we're seeing is a lot of strength coming from the Middle East. We're losing, obviously, because of the war situation, Ukraine and Russia, challenges for those people to attend. But certainly from the south, we're seeing more attendance. So geographically, we see that change. In terms of profile, ISE has always been a very strong channel show, and we're remaining so at the moment. So the channel integrators, distributors, resellers, etc., still very, very strong in the type of attendance and people are coming. What we're seeing new is on the verticals. Certainly retail, we have a lot more to offer, and we're seeing more people who are actually not only the integration part of retail, but actually the design part of retail, actually looking at the new solutions and ideas they can do, because they have a challenge now in actually getting people back into stores, to get them away from just online. And they're looking at AV as a way to actually change how they present themselves. Mentioned already, we've talked about content creation and production. So we're seeing not only installers and integrators in the broadcast industry, in the corporate TV, and all sorts of content creation, but we're seeing the creators as well, the producers actually learning about new ways and looking at AV and saying, okay, what can I do with this technology? How's this going to enhance how I actually present what I'm doing here? So we already see registrations coming from that side as well. So again, growth in that area. We've always had the good strength in the live events area, but again, they can actually see that, being able to see the product physically, but not hearing those demonstrations. So again, we're seeing more and more people in the live events area who are now saying, okay, now I can actually go and hear live demos. I'm seeing the companies in my sector. So again, new audiences that area as well. And again, then on the other side, we've always seen a steady growth over the last years, and particularly as a result of the pandemic, if we start to look at collaboration tools, more and more corporates are now realizing what they can do with AV. They all know what Zoom is. They all know what Teams is. Even at home. I mean, think about it. Nowadays, the school kids who had never heard about this maybe 3 years ago, every school kid knows what Zoom and Teams is. So, the pressure is there for corporates to actually understand how this is going to affect how they communicate, how they interact, etc. So this is where we're seeing changes, and certainly how we can actually present that with our exhibitors, as well as our conferences.
Yeah, the number of conferences this year is interesting.
As
Um,
well. And, you'll see from the conference side, we've got our Smart Home Technology Conference being run by CEDIA. So a great, here we're presenting not only to integrators, but also to interior designers, to architects, to constructors to show what can be done. We've actually, for the first time, we got our content production and distribution summit. We got a keynote that really focuses on that. I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. But we've got some really interesting speakers on board for that who come out of that sector. People who are actually producing TV, who are producing film. We've got our Smart Building Conference, which has been running for many years, and again, very focused on the architectural facilities managers, constructors in there. Digital signage, one of our mainstays, still very, very strong, very interested in retail. We have our Control Room Summit. Again, we have our Education Technology Summit. And for the third time running now, our Smart Workplace Summit. Again, focusing on the corporate market. And then we have the Live Events Summit as well. These are some very strong areas that cover all the different sectors, but not all of them, but many of the different sectors that ISE represents. We have some tech talks running throughout the show. The tech talks are free to attend, and they're in English and Spanish. And then we have the keynotes. Now, our main keynote this year, the first one, is titled All Paths Lead to Real Time. And that's from BK Johansson. He's talking about he's the business director of the Unreal Engine part of Epic Games. Now, when we looked at this, we said, Epic Games are doing a lot here in terms of, when we first addressed this, actually, we were looking at esports. And then we came on the fact, hey, Unreal Engine is not just affecting games and esports. All the broadcasters, all the filmmakers, all the content creators are looking at this as a very creative tool to actually change how they're creating what they're doing. And we were able to actually engage BK to actually come and do this. And I think this is going to be a real inspiring keynote. That's happening at 5:15 on Tuesday, 31st of January. It's going to be our opening keynote. Really worth being there for. On the Thursday, we're doing a second keynote. Something that came about, I'm actually doing, I don't know why I got into this, but I decided to do a master's during the pandemic. I'm doing a master's in digital business, and I've done all the parts of it, and I'm actually still have to write my thesis. And one of the things we discovered in doing this, it was all about digital transformation. And the biggest challenge we're seeing in digital transformation is actually nothing to do with technology. It's more to do with people and the resistance to change, but also about their attitude towards innovation. But then we saw another part of it, which is, as companies, do we give people the opportunity to be innovative? We all talk about being innovative as companies, but do we give our employees a real process to actually create innovation? And part of us end up reading a book on innovation, and it's written by two professors. One is Fran Chaun. He's at the IESA, which is a Barcelona business university. And the other guy is Jay Rao, who's professor at Babson, part of MIT. And ended up through somebody else, through a discussion, I got introduced to Fran Chaun. And we got talking about this. And he said, do you think your industry is innovative? And I said, of course. And he said, do you think they have processes in place to actually do that? I don't know, because we don't. Looking at this, we are actually doing a survey of the AV industry to ask people, Fran Chaun and Jay Rao have created a model, a process to actually measure innovation within companies. And we're going to survey the industry to see how innovative the AV industry is. And Fran Chaun is going to be doing a keynote on Thursday. And it's an innovation and cultural innovation and cultural workshop on how we innovate and are we innovative as an industry. And I think it's been very interesting because it's going to take the results of this survey to highlight to everyone, hey, this is what your industry says. but this is how your employees think, or how they see it, and it'll be interesting to know which companies actually put processes in place. So this is going to be our second keynote. We're actually going to, we're in discussions for some another innovative keynote and some other ideas that we hope we'll be able to announce in the latest in January.
Okay, so I'll bump one question up because how do you decide on which keynote speakers are? Because I see they're carefully selected. It's not just, just talk about this at the beginning. Whoever heard it, fine. Whoever didn't, fine. A lot of
It's
thought
a,
is being put into it.
Absolutely, and it's collective. We always try to look to say, okay, what are the themes that are important to our industry, and not just what's important today, but what's going to lead our industry into the future. Um, and we look to see where the innovation is coming from, where the ideas are coming from. We start looking for innovative and good speakers, ones who will come with interesting ideas. We're very careful not to create a platform where people come and sell. We want to make sure that ISE is seen as a place of innovation. And that means it starts with our keynote speakers coming and telling about what they do, or what they're doing to change. We've had discussions already, told you about what we're thinking about for 2024, new ideas, because we want people to go away and say, wow, I've learned something, or wow, this is how I'm going to change my business as a result, or myself. And so we really look at this, we discuss ideas internally, and then we look for the people who can actually do that. Or sometimes just by chance, we run into somebody and suddenly say, this is a guy that we should put on the stage at ISE. We've got another one of those wow ideas which has come up, and hopefully this could be a third keynote for us. But sometimes it's chance. Sometimes it's real focus, but it's all there. There is a selection process to try and make sure we're bringing something new, we're bringing something inspiring, we're bringing something who will tell a good story.
Um, I think before the last question, perhaps this will be the last question. What are your predictions for ISE 2023, and which hall do you think will be the one to visit and why? Which is I feel like is asking which one of your kids do you like more? Um, I will rephrase this as which hall at this point, because we're pre, got you the most excited about? And that is a fair question because each one of them can be different. So that's a fair question. It's not a favorite kid, but which hall are you most excited for this year?
Actually, to tell you the truth, so firstly, when I go around ISC, I'm like a kid in a candy store everywhere. Because it doesn't matter where you go, you see a lot of exciting things. I think we're in such an innovative industry. Our exhibitors, one of the reasons I think that we have created the biggest and best AV show in the world is down to our customers. What they do to present themselves and create and show what they do, I think it's phenomenal. And this really makes the biggest part of it. So wherever you go in the show, you'll be excited and you'll see. I think everybody has to choose, because ISE can be everything to everybody, but it's also focused to actually be specific to what you need. So my advice always is, first, what is the main focus of your business, or what are you trying to gain from this? And look at the tools we have online, particularly our app, and use that to plan your visit. When you have time afterwards, go and have a look around. What I can tell you is Hall 6 will be exciting. Not only will it be new, a lot of new things in there, but we have a couple of exhibitors who will be doing some really exciting things in there. I hope that as of next week, I can tell what they are, but there'll be some demonstrations and presentations there that will be something different. That's all I can say at this stage. Teaser. um,
A huge
and
one.
yeah, and this will be worth going and having a look. But if content creation is what you're about, then go to Hall 6 as your first point. If pro audio is what you're about, then you need to go into Hall 7. If residential is what you're about, go to Hall 2. Do that as your first point of visit. See the things which are most important and most valuable to you for your business and what you're trying to find. And then when you have time afterwards, go and look at the other things. The Congress Square, that is the heart, the middle of ISE. You see a lot of startups. You'll see a lot of new to market or smaller companies you may not have heard of. Unlike other shows, if you go to a lot of other tech shows, all those small companies are put in the back of the hall. One thing we've learned at ISE is that we give an opportunity for new to market companies or smaller companies to present themselves. And when I go to another show, I go to the back of the hall because I know that's where I'm going to find them, but not everybody knows that. So what we do is we put them in one of the most prominent spaces to give them a chance to be noticed. And the Congress Square is where that is. So you'll find the new to market companies, the smaller companies. You will find our lounges where we're presenting women in live music, women in AV. We've got a particularly new thing we're supporting, which is SAVE, which is a sustainable initiative for the AV industry worldwide, working with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and helping the AV industry to actually become sustainable or address some of the sustainability issues. We have other associations there. Go and see CEDIA and AVIXA and learn about what they can offer you as your businesses as well. And if you're an end user, these associations are not just for the channel; they're there for the end users as well to learn about what's important. So lots to see. Yeah, it is like talking about your favorite children. The pro audio demo zones are new, and if you're in the live events or pro audio industry, go and take and have a look at this as well.
I myself really enjoy music. My wife knows I have like 5 or 6 different pairs of headsets, all for different purposes. Uh, my favorite would be the ANC ones by a manufacturer is going to be exhibiting big name. But I do love them because what they do is give you a chance to focus on the music itself and really it's like the closest thing as being there as a live event. Certainly going to chalk it up as one of the first places to be in. Already made my itinerary plans for ISC. I do have
Great.
that. And as always, we will be chasing each other, I'm guessing, around the ISC halls this year, 2023, coming soon. Um, Mike Blackman, has been a pleasure having you here, as always.
Thank you, Aviad. I really appreciate it. Always, I love to talk with you, and I think most people on this don't know about the pre-discussions we have because I think we could talk for hours.
Thank you. That is correct. That is true. It's because it's an interesting, we go beyond the show, and I think that's, this show is like where all the magic happens, but there's a lot of tidbits between those, and the stories. It's always interesting for me. So again, thank you, and we will be seeing you at ISE. And here's hoping and wishing you the best of ISE. And should you have some more interesting news, feel free to share them, and
Will do,
we'll
of
publish those.
course.
Seeing you around. All right. Enjoy the
Thank you.
weekend. Cheers.
Take care.